Hi, hello and welcome. I am so excited that you're here today. My name is Liv Harrison. I am a speaker and a podcaster in Houston, Texas. And I did not always live in Houston. I am not a natural Texan. I don't own cows or horses. Not that everyone does, but that's kind of a thing. I am actually from Louisiana, and it was not until 5th grade when I was 10 that my family moved from Louisiana to Houston. Now, Houston is a large city. It's the 4th largest in America. I was so angry. I didn't understand why. Why would we leave our great small town of Louisiana for this big city? I didn't understand the value. Well, once I went to enough restaurants and a lot of stores, I was like, oh, I do like it here, you know? And then when I was a teenager, I got really involved in church. My parents are incredible Catholics. I'm blessed to have been a cradle Catholic, right? Always Catholic. But I was taught my faith from the beginning. And that's a little unique. I know a lot of Catholics who don't know a lot of the things because they just went to mass, right? So my story's a little different. I knew my faith. I knew everything about it. I got really involved. My Catholic life was my life. So when I was in high school and I'm going to youth group and Bible studies and all these things, I was really involved. Really loved it. It's all I did. So that was my social circle. A lot. One day I had the entire youth group over to watch a movie, really not that great of a movie. And my friend John came and I opened the door and next to John was this really tall guy in this big football jacket who I didn't know. I had never seen him. And I was really annoyed that my friend John brought someone that I didn't invite, that I had never seen in my life. Well, then this guy started talking and I got really annoyed. He was so arrogant and I was so not into it. I remember telling my mom, do you see that guy over there? And she was like, oh yeah. And the football jacket was like, oh my gosh, isn't he cute? It's true. I thought he was so cute. I mean, arrogant, but I could work with it. So I liked him, but I didn't. I was annoyed, but I thought he was really attractive. I was 15. Well, we started to talk more and I discovered that he actually had this huge crush on a friend of mine that went to my high school. So I was like, oh, okay, I have a project. I am going to help this guy get the girl. So enter Liv, and I was determined to make their love story happen. Well, through that process, we became best friends. Nathan, the guy, and I became inseparable. He started driving me to every Bible study, every youth group meeting, every mass, everything. We were together all the time. And I was still trying to help him get the girl. Well, through that process, I fell for him. I was so smitten. I was like, he's so cute. Why doesn't he like me? It's like a teenage movie. So it was not until senior year when we were 17 that he finally decided he liked me too. And it works out, everybody. We just had our 20th wedding anniversary this past summer in 2020. But at the time when you're in high school, it feels like forever. And our story was not linear. It was not all sunshine and rose petals and perfect. And it still isn't. When we were 17 and we started dating, things got a little crazy on my end because Nathan was so determined and sure that I was the one. I was like, we're 17. We're seniors in high school. And he was like, so I'm going to marry you. And I was like, whoa. I mean, I like you and all, but marry me? That's crazy. I haven't met enough people. And I was really turned off by it and I was really concerned. And I literally said this to him. This is a true story. I looked at him in the face after he just told me he was going to marry me, that I was his wife, that he was for sure. And I looked at him and I said, so I need to know if we're going to go to prom together because prom's in May and I need to get a dress. Y'all, I was 17. And I was serious. I was like, are you sticking around for prom? And he was like, yeah, I'm sticking around for prom. Did you hear what I said? I'm going to marry you. that took me actually a while to kind of get through. I went off to college. He went off to a different college. He was like determined we were getting married. He wrote me a letter every day. I was the only girl in the dorm that got a letter every day. And it wasn't that way for me. Sophomore year in college, so we're now like 2019, I don't know. He transferred to my school. You would think that would be a good thing. I was not okay with it. But here's where our story changes. So, sophomores, I'm not that nice to him because, and he's so in love with me. And I'm like, oh, that's so annoying. And we had been pretty okay with our faith, but I would not say that we were like, majorly involved with each other, like as far as having this incredible life as a couple. We were involved at the campus. We went to mass. Sometimes we didn't go to mass. Like I was trying to figure out my space of being this really good Catholic girl, and now I'm on my own. Well, one day we were going to go out to a movie. I know. And I got a phone call from my mother, and Nathan was already at my apartment to pick me up. And my mom was on the phone and told me that my father had been in a head-on collision and they couldn't life flight him. So he was in an ambulance going about 3 hours to Houston to have surgery. That turned into a 7-week stay in ICU for my father, literally fighting for his life. He had multiple surgeries. It was a horrific time. It was trauma. It was tragic. And I was in a university in Texas, in the Panhandle. So it was 10 hours from Houston. Isn't that crazy? That's how big Texas is, that I was in one part and still 10 hours from my parents. So I had to fly home and all these things. Well, when that first initial phone call happened, I hung up the phone. And of course I've been crying and screaming, and I don't know what I did, but it was horrible. And I just sat on the couch, and Nathan was already sitting there on the couch. I forgot he was there. And he was halfway through a rosary. We had never prayed a rosary together. We were good Catholic kids, but we weren't that good, okay? And so he handed me a second rosary, which I don't even know how he knew where my rosaries were. And he had it on the bead that he was on and just placed it in my hand. Held my hand while I had the beads, and he continued to pray the rosary out loud. That was the moment I knew I'm going to marry this guy. And that's what's really interesting about finding our spouse and letting God do the choosing, if that makes sense. If it had been up to me, I would have ruined this from the beginning, which I tried. I have tried to ruin this relationship even still. Even as a married person, I mess up all the time. My husband forgives me all the time. He is phenomenal. It's every time that I leave God behind or I don't involve him in anything, that is when I get into trouble. When I was looking for a spouse, when I was dating this man who, and I remember at one point my mom saying, you want to marry someone whose soul is going to love your soul, and your one purpose is to get each other back to heaven. And I was like, yeah, but Mom, does he make me laugh? And Nathan's not funny. It's not. He is because you love him, but he's not a funny guy. We are complete opposites. He's a financial advisor. He's the most adult I've ever met. He's responsible and he's introverted. He loves quarantine. We're complete opposites. Not kind of opposites. We're extreme opposites. And praise God, he would not have been who I would have chosen, nor for the right reasons. But it's so interesting that we started as friends. We built a foundation based on friendship, and it was Christ-centered. Whether or not we intentionally did that, it was. We met in the youth group. Our lives became the youth group in high school, same in college, because even though we weren't making always the best decisions, we were still involved at the end of the day. And 9 times out of 10, we would choose the right thing. We didn't completely ditch mass, for all of college or anything. We're talking maybe for a few weeks, maybe a few months. We were like, oh, whatever. Just trying to, I don't know. That was the most rebellious, really, that was as rebellious as I get, which is pretty bad because that's a mortal sin to just miss Mass. I've confessed it. So, we grew up together, Nathan and I. I didn't see the value in that for a long time. I really didn't. But I do now. And I see where our friendship, where that has gotten us through these times, even as a married couple, we're old, we're, 20 years into this thing, it has saved us. I cannot explain how many times our friendship has saved us because we have a connection that goes beyond physical attraction, goes beyond physical chemistry, goes beyond intellectual connection. We truly like each other. We want to be together. We want to hang out. Friendship is very multifaceted. We kind of toss that word around and we're like, oh, friends, like cartoons. And I don't know. We make it very juvenile. Friendship is anything but juvenile. It is so important. That's what you see Christ do in his life. The first thing after he comes out on the scene at Cana is he goes and collects an incredible group of friends. Why? Why would he do that? He has Mary. He has Joseph. We don't really know when Joseph left. It's not like in the Bible, and this was Joseph's last scene. So he had other people, St. Elizabeth was there, John the Baptist. So what was he doing? Why was he going off to find other people? Because everything Christ did was to show us how important that is, right? He's the ultimate example. He showed us that community is nothing to put your nose up to. Community is everything. When you see a Catholic church, for instance, my church is Prince of Peace Catholic Community. And that's how it's written everywhere in Houston. I'm guessing that's kind of a thing everywhere. It's Catholic community. Community means something. It's a connection that goes beyond just people that you see and know. It's an intimacy. Friendship is an intimacy, right? You're sharing not just your favorite color and what your favorite popcorn topping is. You're sharing your life with someone, your dreams, your hopes, your thoughts, your fears. When you have that as a basis in marriage, that's a pretty good place to fall to. That's a pretty good place to fall back on, because you know why? When you're married, you're going to fall. You're human. You're both human. And you're going to fall. And if your spouse isn't your friend, you're going to fall someplace else. You're going to fall to another relationship, another friendship. And that's what we don't want. Now, does that mean that you can't have other friends or relationships? Of course you can. But your spouse should be the ultimate friend. Your spouse should be your St. Peter, should be your John, should be the one that you can go to no matter what. And that's where you're going to build this structure and this foundation and this life together. Because it's a long life if you're blessed to live it. And when you have quarantine and things like that, you better be friends because you better want to hang out with each other. I think a lot of people have found that out. So how do you know that this friend or this relationship is more than that and is your spouse? And how do you have a Christ-centered marriage and relationship? The thing is that you've got to start slow. And you've got to start in places that make you both comfortable. You come from different families of origin. People grew up different ways. Nathan was Catholic by name alone when I met him. He went to Mass, but that was it. I grew up where I went to Yugoslavia, to Medjugorje when I was 10. And we said the rosary every night as a family for the rest of the time that I lived with my parents. We had very different experiences being Catholics. So when we were coming together as a family and starting this life together, we had to figure that out. And we have. We've found ways that we have grown, and Nathan has developed in this incredible spiritual director of our lives. Not in the way of like spiritual directing. I mean, he's spiritual head of our home. And it's been beautiful to watch that happen. But that could not have happened without Christ. You have to make a space for him. He's there already. You have to invite him. He's asking, he's waiting, he's there. Those vows that are said, those blessings that are said in the marriage ceremony are extremely powerful. You can tap into those anytime you need. So don't be afraid to reach back out to the church that you got married, or to pick up a book and see if you can remember the readings, or watch the videotape, or contact your priest and have a conversation. Don't be afraid as a couple to change things. Maybe it was great when you were praying the rosary together every single night, but now you have 6 kids and that's just not going to happen. So what's something else you can do? One thing that Nathan and I do is that we set our phones to 1:43 every single day. It's like on a permanent set. And when that goes off, that alarm, we stop wherever we are and we pray for each other. And why is it 143? Because there's 1 letter in I, there's 4 letters in love, and there's 3 letters in you. 143. I love you. It's a numerical way to say I love you. So there's ways to connect together with Christ, even when you're not physically together. You need to always be praying for your spouse, your future spouse, your current spouse, your whatever your vocation's going to be. It doesn't matter. The marriages that you know, always be praying, because the enemy is always going to want to take away things that are worth, right? That are like amazing, that are worth his time. He wants to destroy. That is what he comes to do. A marriage based on friendship, a marriage based with Christ, where Christ knows he's welcome and can come in, especially in the dark times, especially in the times when maybe you aren't aligning, or maybe things have gotten really bad, or maybe there's infidelity, or maybe there's pornography, or maybe there is financial difficulties, or maybe there's infertility. There's a lot that happens in marriage because you live a long time together. You can. And if Christ hasn't been there, it's a lot harder to figure out where he belongs when you need him. I tell people all the time, don't wait to invite Christ when things get bad. That should be a constant thing. So when things get bad, you're not even thinking about it. It's a reflex. You know what I mean? You've already built up that relationship with him. That's an everyday thing, not an all of a sudden. So I invite you to reach out to me. Nathan and I have a marriage ministry. I'm part of an incredible podcast called Discerning Marriage, which is actually being held by Theology of the Body Institute. They took in this little podcast and it's doing amazing. I help my girlfriend with it. Not always, but a lot. And then I have my own personal podcast called Talk to Me with Liv Harrison. You can reach me at my website, thelivharrison.com, and on Instagram, thelivharrison. It's Liv. Also on Facebook. I'm really active on Instagram. And if you reach me on the website, I have a little newsletter. Sign up and I'll just send you a little something. Listen, I'm praying for you. You're doing fantastic. Future spouse, current spouse, all the spouses. God loves marriage. He made it up. So go to God. Don't forget that. And mwah, I'm here. You're extraordinary.